All right. Welcome back to What Are We Watching with Jonathan Corto, and I'm Jonathan Corto. Cortoberfest. You can find me on Instagram or and on at Cortoberfest and at WAWW underscore entertainment for movie reviews. So today is going to be we're going to be talking a little bit of Toy Story. I marathoned the first three, the original trilogy, and then watched five last night, of which I have some opinions. Um, and what's I think with Toy Story, what the way that you need to sort of frame it, in my opinion, is you have to frame it as the original trilogy, um, and then unnecessary slop. Like ideally, if you have kids, you show them the first three and then forget that anything else was made, because it just you watch the worst idea possible if you're gonna go see Toy Story 5 is to marathon the original three ahead of time. It's not a good idea, because the first three, it's one of the most perfect trilogies ever put to screen, hands down. If I have to pick it would be in my top five movie trilogies. um gun to my head, it would be in the top five, with probably Back to the Future, Lord of the Rings, OG Star Wars, Toy Story, and if we and then this is the thing, so you have to kind of pretend that Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny don't exist, but Indiana Jones. But Toy Story's way up there, and rewatching the original three, it's spectacular. They are the definition of four quadrant. Like I'm almost 40, not married, no kids. I throw these movies on probably, and maybe not every year, but like I would say, like usually once a year, like I'll go through an animated kick, and they always make the cut, because it's obviously for kids, but there is so much stuff in there for adults. But also just the storytelling in it and the character narratives of those three films are just so strong that, I mean, you'd have to have just a stone heart to to not enjoy those movies. And I still pick up little things each time I watch them. Like this time, with the first one, and someone may have to confirm this for me, when they get to Sid's house. And this is, like, I think, great movies, you can infer from little background details, you can infer things about the lives of some of these characters. Like, someone let me know, but they get into Sid house, and there's plant leaves on the wallpaper. And I swear to God, it's just like, oh my God, Sid's parents wallpapered their house with it's pot wallpaper. Like, I am like 90% sure the wallpaper in Sid's house is pot wallpaper. And which would say to me that that Sid's parents are probably potheads, which explains why he has no supervision and is a complete hooligan. And I always kind of, like, you look at it, it's like the TV, watching a TV that's bigger than used to growing up. But I used to think he had braces or something. It's like, oh no, his teeth are rotting out of his head. This is like this poor kid is being abused. Um so it's like, if you frame him, it's not an excuse for anything he does in the film, but but it's just like, from a certain point of view, from a certain point of view, Sid's like, you could look at Sid as a not sympathetic, but a sad story of a kid with if not abusive, neglectful parents. And boys tend to need tend to need more supervision, which he's not getting. His sister is um clearly deals with it better, and kind of like at the end of the film, I kind of look at it as Sid gets the kick in the ass that he needs. And ultimately in three, we find out like he's holding out a job, seems to be doing okay, and I kind of like to think his sister is some sort of family therapist. So you could start extrapolating stuff when you look at details in the background of a really good movie. And the other thing that's kind of fun with where if you take out the if you remove the fact that the toys are sentient and alive, if you strip that factor out of the story, like, and you look at the constructions um of the toys that Sid pulls apart and puts back together, like there's some in a very Tim Burton-y way, he does have a creative mind. The problem with him is the reveling in other people's misery, and taking and really treating other people like a giant asshole. So he's he's kind of interesting when you really start to dig into it. And then Toy Story 2 expands on the lore. Um and it's I think arguably Toy Story 2 is the bet of that first three. You could, I think, argue it's the best one, because it is in fact the linchpin. um it's the I mean, it's the linchpin of the series. The Sarah McLaughlin montage with Jesse's past is sort of the core of what this franchise is doing. It is the life of a toy, and it sets up the great conclusion that you get with the third one. And then Kelsey Grammer is just so good in it. So realistically, there should not be, like, by all accounts, there shouldn't Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 5 should not be a thing. They really shouldn't. Like, it you had a perfect beginning, a middle, and an end. Um Perfect beginning, middle, and an end, and there was nowhere else to go. And a big part of another thing that I feel like people don't talk about is how important the supporting characters are in those first three. I mean, obviously, Woody and Buzz are the core dynamic of the two, but they are backed up by this really funny dynamic cast of characters, whether it be the potato heads with Don Rickles, Ham, Rex. Like, it's they are surrounded by Andy's toys, which have a ton of personality. And a lot of those actors were older actors at the time. Of course, the first one was 30 some odd years ago. I'm dating myself. But you don't have Don Rickles has passed, Stell Harris has passed, and they're really not replaceable. And one thing I will say with five, the voice actor voicing over, I would not have given Potato Head any lines, because you just can't duplicate Don Rickles. It's not possible to do. And whenever he talks, it was super duper cringe. But you get into Toy Story 4, and this is where you get into what are you doing? There's not really a point, and there's seem to be axes to grind, and there's a lot of character assassination of these beloved characters. And it really, like, 4 is Toy Story 5 is better than Toy Story 4 for sure. Like, it's got a little bit more focus, got a little bit more going for it. But it's they should Toy Story 4 really should have been considered as a, here's, you know 1 through 3 was Andy's story. Now we need to sort of build from the ground up and start to retire old characters respectively and build up new ones, and they kind of didn't do that. But biggest issue I have, and it's just like they're pretending that with 4, and is Bo Peep. um, very clearly retconned to be more mobile than she actually is. You look at 1 and 2, it's like this is a porcelain doll with very clearly limited mobility. She's not an action figure. And Toy Story 4 needed, and this is like, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on Toy Story 4 because that's the one I haven't rewatched yet. And it just like there's nothing memorable about it, so I don't know what the point of rewatching it would even be at this point. There was just nothing in it that was dynamic enough to revisit. But I mean, they wanted to do, because I mean, that's, there's the big push for everything has to have strong female character. So they wanted to do that with clearly wanted to do that with Bo for some reason, and we're supposed to pretend like she operates completely differently than she clearly did in the first 2 films. And it's annoying, and yeah, it's like I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on 4 because again, I haven't rewatched it yet. I probably will at some point in the next week or so, but it's what's annoying about what they've done with 4 and 5 is I feel like whoever's writing these, it's not like, it's one thing to have a message where the message of the film is being different from the norm is okay. Like, that's a message I can agree with, but there just seems to be a disdain for the normal, and you can see that in both Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 5. With Toy Story 4, Bo Peep Bo Peep in 1 and 2 is very traditionally feminine, which is like they introduced sort of a different version with Jessie, who's more of a tomboy in Toy Story 2. So you had sort of a woman with different interests and action ability there. Um, but it's just almost just like we're saying what Bo Peep was in 1 and 2 is somehow a bad thing. And it's like, no, like that's kind of a standard. Like, there are in fact norms that a lot of people fit into. I don't know why you don't have to undercut the norms to say that, to make the point that it's okay to be outside of those norms. And they kind of do the same thing with Buzz in Toy Story 5, where they give him a bunch of a bunch of things that are traditionally female. Like, and the thing that just sort of blew the back of my head clean off, and it's just like I kind of wanted to throw a brick at the screen, was they give him the little like leg raise, like when he and Jesse kiss. He's got the little like leg raise that women normally do in a rom-com. And I didn't even like was listening to another podcast, and it's like I didn't even occur to me at the time. Maybe it's because I was just so annoyed, but when they get to the little wedding at the end, like Buzz is the one walking up the aisle and Jesse is the one at the top. So they're screwing around with gender norms and using fan favorite characters in order to do it. And it's like if you want to make a movie to play with play with the idea of gender, fine. Don't screw with the characters I like in order to do it. It's annoying, and I think it's obvious why it would be annoying. But that doesn't really speak to the movie as a whole. And the movie as a whole is very like kids are gonna it's gonna do very well. The kids will enjoy it. It does not have it's forget both 4 and 5, their primary crimes. And actually, like, before I move on to my review proper, what that like a thing with Bo Peep that's weird and interesting to me is, like, you did if you wanted to do a more female centric Toy Story, you already had Jessie, who has the physical mobility to do the action stuff that Woody and Buzz do. Like, that was established. Like, it's almost like Toy Story 4 should have been the Jessie centric story? Why did we push it off to 5 so that we could retcon Bo in ways that, again, if you watch the first one, there is no way this toy moves like the movie needs her to do in that fourth film. But I digress. With 5, the problems with both 4 and 5 is they are completely forgettable. Like the original trilogy, in addition to having this great sort of universally understood emotional arc of the life of a toy and growing up, learning to let go. The first one had, themes of, I mean, actually, there is a theme of envy throughout all three of them, whether it be Woody to Buzz, Prospector toward everything. And I love Kelsey Grammer in that film. It's doing a lot. It's got memorable scenes. I couldn't tell you. I saw the fourth one when it came out. I could not describe a single scene from it to you. I couldn't. It's completely forgettable, and I think this is in that same vein of there's nothing aggressively memorable about the film. It feels like a lot of ideas thrown at the wall. Like the army of buzzes seems like in constant, like, oh, like this could be funny, but it's just not integrated in any meaningful way into the plot in any aspect whatsoever. So it's very clunky. It tells a basic enough story about um screen time and kids that that it was fine. Like I give it a 2.5 out of 5. Kids are gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be a little bit of a snooze for the parents, and part of it is that the messaging is just so on the nose. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's political messaging. It has something to say about screen time and kids. And and I happen to agree with the message that too much screen time is a bad thing. It's too much screen time is a bad thing for adults, let alone for kids. So it's like, okay, we're on the same page there, but it doesn't at no point does it elevate, at no point does it elevate itself past the screen time bad description. And that's when, like, they were so focused clearly on that message that I think they forgot they needed a cohesive s- narrative arc, because that's what it doesn't have. It's like a pastiche of scenes, leading to the end that don't really interweave particularly well. And I would say Woody shouldn't be in the film. To be honest, he has nothing to do. It makes complete sense that Jesse would be the new, protagonist. Bonnie is Andy was a boy, Bonnie is a girl. The logic dictates Bonnie would be more inclined to play with Jesse than one of the more male-centric toys, so that all makes sense. So there really isn't anything for Woody to do in this movie. Like, he's there out of obligation because they know a big selling point of the film is Woody and Buzz. Like, they're the guys. Like, I mean that, it's like, I mean that in the royal sense. They're the marketing for the film. And really, if they really wanted to shuttle this past the first 3, Woody is the one that I think you could drop, because he operates in basically in the same capacity that Buzz does on his own. So he's there because they need him to be there more than that he should be there. And I kind of do. I kind of do. I don't mind the subplot of Buzz needing to work up the courage to ask Jesse to marry him. Feels very authentic and real. What teased me off to no end is giving him stuff that typically chicks do for reasons I don't know. It's so inauthentic and opposite to what Buzz has ever been to this point. And like, why God, why? do we keep doing this? And then the other thing I would note is that he's in a kilt at the end, and it's like at no point have we established that Buzz is either Scottish or Irish. So it's just like you just want to put a man in a skirt. Like that's all you're looking to do. I mean, maybe if Buzz was voiced over by Craig Ferguson, that might make some kind of sense because he's obviously obviously is he Irish or Scottish? I would have to look that up, but like then that would make sense. Doesn't make sense given the things. It's just like we want to screw around with norms, so we're gonna put him in a skirt, and it's like I'm sorry, like this is annoying at this point. Can you just leave the old characters alone? Like if you're gonna go there, write new characters. But ultimately, it doesn't accomplish anything. That doesn't have memorable scenes. It's really blowing my mind that it's being as well reviewed as it is. I think it's a disjointed mess from a writing standpoint. It's really lacking in the supporting characters department, not having the sort of group that again, Potato Head, Slinky, all those guys backing it up. It's really missing a personality that these movies used to have and they don't now. And that's like they really needed to write up in four. And this is a thing they probably should have put some legwork into if you were going to do a fourth one, writing up the characters of Bonnie's toys and do some sort of passing of the torch where it's like, okay, we're focusing on Lem less, but here's the new group. And that was never done because I mean, again, obviously Woody Buzz, we know what sells. So it's like, how do we move on when we need to move on, but we can't in a certain way because this is the stuff that makes us the money. And at the end of the day, it's that these movies, they don't need to exist anymore. Like you had a perfect arc, 1, 2, 3, move on, and just 4 and 5 are just I'm not remotely a fan. Not remotely a fan. Some things just need to stop. For every story there is an ending, and Toy Story 3 had a spectacular ending. Why are we still doing this? But, again, if you've got kids, they'll probably have a good time. This is going to make a lot of money. There's not I can't until Minions in a couple of weeks. There's not a ton else for families out there right now to see in the theater, and we're in peak summer season, so it really is. It's got some prime real estate in terms of when it's come out. This is going to do very well for a while, but it's just I remember when these movies were consistently 5 out of 5. Like Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, all three of them are 5 out of 5 star films. I love all three of them. Um, I watched them on repeat. Cannot say that for Toy Story 4, and I'm sure I'm not going to be able to say that for Toy Story 5. So it's yeah, no, it's a bummer. Like it's a bummer that it's not better. Um, I will say I like the teaser for this cat movie they've got coming out next year. I'm a cat guy, so I hope that one I really hope is good. Like I animated cat movie, I'm in. But in any case, I can't. I mean, if you're looking to see a movie with your kids, I'm sure you will all have a good time. It just is not. This movie is not going to be looked fondly on the way that the first three are. You know, 10 to 20 years from now. So. If you really got to get out to someplace with to a movie with your kids, it will fill the void. It's not a must see though. And if you're a single adult who happens to like animated films, it's not good enough to warrant spending the money on it at the end of the day. But anywho, so on the other, there's couple other things we'll be talking about this week. I finished Spider Noir quite recently, and that one is damn good. Like really, really, really damn good. They were having a good time, clearly making that show. I mean, they have fun with the genre. It really, I would say, is a good, if you're unfamiliar with um noir as a genre, it's not a bad, and I think clearly they were sort of going for this in a little way. It's got a lot of really classic noir tropes. He's very much Ben Riley is very much a Humphrey Bogart-esque. It's sort of got like Maltese Falcon vibes to it. You've got your politics, like there's corrupt politicians. You've got the mob, and the mob, of course, is Brendan Gleeson, so he's super duper Irish. So he's got the accent going for him. So everything about it feels really, really classic. They shoot the angles in sort of those fun noir angles, and I would say black and white. You have to watch it in black and white. I I've seen a couple of scenes from it, and I haven't watched the whole thing in color, but I did catch some scenes online in color. But it clearly that's not what it was designed for. Black and white clearly was the intent, and it's like, okay, if we're if people, if the youngins are afraid of the black and white, we'll have the color version for them to watch. But the youngins, y'all need to watch it in black and white, because that's the intention, and that's really the source, the source material, and it has fun with it. The cast it's got a sort of really rounded, sort of diverse cast in a good way. It plays with the time period. Of course, it's sort of an alternate universe 30s, but it still maintains some of those historical issues from the time period of the 30s, with the reporter character Robbie Robertson, as a black man had to have run into. So you got a little bit of the history there. Cat is a great classic, femme fatale, gorgeous femme fatale villain. Or she's not really not a villain. That's sort of a misspeak there on my part. But is she good? Is she bad? Does she have Ben's best interests at heart? It's just a really dynamic female character. And then, of course, Nicolas Cage is a detective with issues. And I would say the biggest issue with Spider Noir as a show, its biggest asset and its biggest drawback is Nicolas Cage. The drawback, is entirely not his fault. It's just that he is a 60-year-old man, and he's not a youngish looking 60-year-old man. He is like, he's looking a little, and I love Nicolas Cage. I hate saying that, but he looks old, which is a mite bit distracting when he's in the spider costume. It's very clearly a younger, more fit double who's taking the reins, or when he's swinging around, it's a computerized. But he does make up for it, and you can always rely on Nicolas Cage to make up for it in this manner. Is he's entirely enthusiastic. You can tell he's fully into the material. He loves the source genre, and he's committed to it. He's playing that Bogart type, and just having a good time. So it 100% is a good watch. They have some fun with some of the classic Spider-Man villains, Sandman in particular. So Spider Noir gets a heavy recommend. And again, Star Wars universe, like they could have had, this is produced by Lord Miller, and they could have had them on the Solo movie. What'd you do? They're having a banger of a year this year between this show and Project Hail Mary. It is a shame that they let those guys off a Solo. But in any case, as per usual, I think we're going to wrap up with some Trek Tuesday. The 2 episodes for this. For this will it'll get re-uploaded on Tuesday. It's a little bit belated, but an episode that I like, and then a super classic episode, or an episode that I don't like, and then a very classic episode that I do like. And I would say like the first one is Squire of Gothos, with taken on its own is really kind of a lame episode. It doesn't really do anything particular. Like it doesn't really have anything philosophical to say about the universe or humanity. It's just this, empowered goofball showing up and screwing with the Enterprise crew. And at the end of it, his parents show up and are like, "We're taking our kid," and he's, it's like, "We're sorry," and blah blah blah, blah, and that's that. It's just not. There's nothing really to it. What is interesting is it is very clearly the inspiration for what would become in Star Trek: The Next Generation Q, and Q really was a is an interesting character, partly through part in concept and being the powered being that he is, and also in John Delancey's performance when they get there, is that there's this certain level of threat to Q. He's this all-powerful being, and he is a goofball, and he's very flamboyant. But also, like when he needs to get edgy, he gets edgy, and he's there to teach Captain Picard sort of life lessons about the universe. There's a greater purpose to his shenanigans, which Trelane in this episode, I don't think there really is a greater purpose to it. It's just he's being a goof for the episode, and that's about it. And that's followed up by a very much classic episode, Arena, which is where Kirk fights the Gorn, which is very, very, again, like 2026 eyes, like, kids today will look at that as, what the heck is this? And you got, the guy, big clunky lizard suit moving around, and they kind of have to write around it, where like Kirk's, for some reason, he's in the middle of this arena fight, and it's like doing a log for the whole thing. And one of the things he points, he's like, "Oh, he's slow, but he's very strong." So like, it's like they're making up for the fact that like you've got the person in this suit just physically can't move. It's really goofy looking, but also it's within the context of interesting storytelling. It operates. It opens. It opens. They're going to this planet, this outpost, and they get there and it's completely destroyed. And Kirk this is similar to Galileo 7. This actually presents Kirk in a little bit of a negative light. He gets very, very war hungry once he sees the destroyed outpost, and he's just like, he is out for blood. And you've got, and again, best of Star Trek, Spock trying to, like, are you sure there's not more to this, Captain? And Kirk is not having it. And this is where the original series did have a clear chain of command, where Spock airs his concerns, but ultimately, Kirk's orders he's the captain, his orders stand, and that's how a military structure works in reality. And then they get there, and he fights the Gorn, and has to, again, it's like sort of learning that there's maybe more to your enemy than you think. And it's got sort of a little bit of a backdrop of the Federation shows up and starts putting posts uninvited in their territory, and starts putting posts there. And so it's got, there's sort of a lot of questions of like, if I would say, if you're more left wing, it's sort of colonization questions. On the right, you could argue sort of immigration questions of like, do you just like, do you like do you just show up in somebody else's territory and expect them not to push back on that? So there's really pretty deep questions in the episode, and then they wrap it in and then I forgot to mention this, the because actually the territory thing is, it blends into this other element where with the Metatrons, who like they're going through like in this chase where they're clearly gonna go to battle, this higher evolved, ethereal alien race pulls them aside, and it's like, nope, you can't. You guys are blowing yourself up in our space. No, we're not doing this. Like, blip, you're gonna put you here, blip you here, and this is how this is gonna go, and we're not gonna let you do it. So you had that third sort of, again, higher evolved entity of entity butting themselves in once they go through their territory. So there's a lot going on, and it's asking a lot of questions, and it's really, really, really excellent episode. Of course, I'm watching this on Paramount Plus, so it's the oh god, the enhanced edition where they sort of like redid the effects and the Gorn blinks now, which is kind of fun. So it's you had it like this week had an okay episode, at a okay to weak episode, and then a really good episode. So I would catch both of them, and I think that's where we're going to wrap up for today. Hope you guys have a good week. Watch some fun stuff. Any recommendations for things to watch, drop them in the comments, and we will see you next week.